Most people assume the narcissist has finally moved on when they see them with someone new. They assume the problem was the relationship or the timing or maybe even you. And when the narcissist shows up online smiling with a new partner, posting exaggerated affection or announcing a perfect connection only weeks after the breakup, it's easy to feel replaced, minimized, or even foolish for everything you invested. But here is the part no one tells you. None of it is real. What you're seeing is not happiness, it's strategy. It's not love, it's narrative management. The narcissist's new relationship doesn't mean they've grown, healed, matured, or finally found the right person. It means they're doing what they always do, avoiding responsibility, avoiding their own emptiness, and avoiding the truth of why every relationship they touch eventually collapses. The new partner isn't a soulmate, they're a shield, a prop, a distraction that allows the narcissist to escape the shame, the cracks in their identity, and the reflection of who they really are when someone stops tolerating their behavior. And the faster they move on, the louder the message actually is. The relationship wasn't ended because you weren't enough. It ended because they can't sit alone with themselves long enough to face what the relationship revealed. This video is not about exposing the narcissist for the sake of it. It's about exposing the illusion you were manipulated into believing, the belief that the new relationship means they upgraded, that they're finally happy, or that you were somehow the root of the dysfunction. We're going to break down why the narcissist's new relationship is a lie, why it has to be a lie, how the lie is constructed, and most importantly, what this lie secretly reveals about you, your boundaries, your strength, and the parts of you they couldn't control no matter how hard they tried. Once you understand this, you won't look at their new relationship with pain or jealousy, you'll look at it with clarity. And the whole illusion will lose its power. The first thing you need to understand is this. A narcissist doesn't build relationships, they build stories. What you see on the surface, whether it's the love bombing, the dramatic affection, or the sudden declaration that they've finally found the right person, has nothing to do with genuine connection. It is part of a structure they assemble every time a relationship ends. It's not new, it's not special, it's not even personal, it's a template, and you've seen the template before. Narcissists cannot tolerate psychological emptiness, and the moment one source of supply stops responding the way they need, they must immediately construct a new narrative to avoid facing themselves. That narrative begins with the illusion of instant happiness. They have to make the new relationship appear flawless, because anything less would force them to confront the truth they are running from, that they are the common denominator in every collapse. Read exaggerated, if the relationship with you ended, they cannot accept that their behavior played a role, so they create a new relationship that proves, to themselves, to others, and especially to you, that they were never the problem. That is the foundation of the lie. This is where Jung's concept of the persona becomes vital. The persona is the mask we show the world, but for the narcissist, the mask isn't just a social tool, it's a survival mechanism. Without it, they would have to admit to their flaws, their shame, their emptiness, and the parts of themselves they've buried so deeply they no longer recognize them. The new partner becomes a functional extension of that mask. They aren't chosen for compatibility or emotional depth. They're chosen because they can reinforce the story the narcissist needs to tell, a story where the narcissist is lovable, desired, stable, and capable of a healthy relationship, even though every piece of evidence points to the opposite. To maintain the illusion, the early phase of the new relationship must look perfect. It must feel effortless. It must be fast, because speed is part of the manipulation. The faster they move, the less time anyone has to notice the repetition, the fact that the same lines, gestures, promises, and fantasies used on you are now being recycled word for word on someone else. The speed also keeps the new partner disoriented and flattered, making them less likely to question the intensity or the unrealistic pace of the connection. But the most important truth is this: the new relationship is not built on who the new partner is, it's built on who the narcissist needs them to be. a reflection, a placeholder, a stage prop in their ongoing performance of self, and above all, a reassurance that the emptiness inside them is not real. They are not bonding with the new partner, they are bonding with the illusion of what that partner represents, and that illusion was constructed long before the new person even arrived. This is why the pattern never changes. It can't, because the narcissist is not relating to a human being, they are relating to a concept, a tool, a projection screen for their persona, and anything built on a projection must be maintained through more projections, more exaggeration, more image management, and more lies. The architecture of the lie is always the same. Idealize quickly, display aggressively, deny all responsibility, and rewrite the past to protect the persona at all costs. Once you see this structure clearly, you stop asking, "Why weren't they like this with me?" and instead you understand, they were never like this with anyone. They were performing, and they are performing again. Only now you see the stage lights, you see the script, and you know exactly how the show ends. If the narcissist's new relationship were truly about moving on, they wouldn't need you to witness it. They wouldn't parade it publicly, push it onto social media, or make sure the news finds its way back to you through friends, co-workers, or family members. The reason they want you to see the facade is simple. The lie only works if the audience believes it. A narcissist is not trying to start over, they are trying to re-establish control, and the easiest way to do this is by controlling how you perceive the breakup, how you perceive them, and most importantly, how you perceive yourself. The new relationship becomes a tool, a psychological weapon designed to destabilize your sense of worth. They want you questioning everything, your value, your memory of the relationship, whether you were the problem, and whether you're somehow less than the new partner. This isn't accidental, it's strategic. When you doubt yourself, you remain psychologically tied to them. Doubt keeps you emotionally tethered. Doubt keeps you watching. Doubt keeps you comparing, replaying, overthinking, and analyzing what you could have done differently. And as long as you are in that mental loop, the narcissist still has influence over you, even in absence. This is where triangulation comes into play. Triangulation isn't just having a third person involved, it's using that third person as a mirror to distort your sense of reality. The narcissist isn't trying to make the new partner feel special, they're trying to make you feel insufficient. The entire point is to generate contrast. Look how effortless this is with them. Look how happy I am now. Look how quickly I moved forward. Clearly, you were the problem. This narrative is powerful because it exploits your most vulnerable psychological wound, the tendency to internalize blame when someone mistreats you. The narcissist knows this. They've studied you. They know exactly how to trigger the guilt, the insecurity, and the self-comparison that keeps you emotionally stuck. But the deeper truth is that the facade is not aimed at you because you were weak. It's aimed at you because you became uncontrollable. When someone stops feeding the narcissist's ego, the narcissist must punish them by creating the illusion that they've been replaced effortlessly. They need you to believe they've upgraded because accepting the reality that they are repeating the same pattern would mean confronting their own flaws. So the new relationship becomes a shield that protects them from their shadow. Jung wrote that what we refuse to face in ourselves eventually appears outside of us as fate. For the narcissist, the new partner is not fate. They are a distraction from the shadow that's chasing them. And this is the paradox. They need you to see the performance because you were the only person in the dynamic who ever saw beyond the mask. The new partner doesn't see the truth yet. The narcissist knows this. They know you see the mask slipping, and the facade is their desperate attempt to convince you, and themselves, that the mask is still intact. Their obsession with showing you their happiness is not proof of healing, it's proof of insecurity. It's proof that the story they're selling is too fragile to stand on its own. A healthy person moves on quietly. A narcissist must announce it loudly, because the noise is the only thing keeping their inner silence from swallowing them whole. The most painful illusion in the entire narcissistic cycle is the belief that the new relationship is somehow better than the one you had with them. And that belief often comes from the way the relationship looks on the outside. The affection, the intensity, the speed, the public displays, the soulmate narratives repeated as if rehearsed. But the truth is far more straightforward and far more brutal. The new relationship is not a better version of anything. It's the same pattern, the same script, the same cycle, just being played with a different actor who hasn't yet realized they've stepped onto a stage instead of into a relationship. Narcissists do not create connections, they create roles. Once you understand this, the entire illusion loses its power. The early phase looks perfect because it must look perfect. It has nothing to do with compatibility and everything to do with predictability. Narcissists are not reinventing themselves with this new person. They're recycling what worked on you. The same compliments, the same fantasies, the same fast escalation disguised as fate, the same emotional intensity misrepresented as deep connection. They're running the same script because it's the only script they know. But behind every exaggerated display is the same empty structure. A narcissist cannot offer intimacy because intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires self-awareness, neither of which they possess. So instead of depth, they offer speed. Instead of honesty, they offer intensity. Instead of responsibility, they offer theatrics. And the new partner, who does not yet understand the manipulation, interprets that intensity as passion instead of overwhelm, speed as certainty instead of control, and attention as love instead of grooming. This is why the early stage is always bright, loud, fast, and dramatic. It prevents the new partner from slowing down long enough to recognize the red flags. It locks them into a story before they've had a chance to evaluate the reality. The narcissist knows that once someone begins to think clearly, they begin to question, and once they question, the facade falls apart. The early phase is engineered to prevent clarity. It's not connection, it's containment. And beneath all of this is the harshest truth. The new partner is not being loved. They're being prepared. Prepared to be blamed, prepared to be drained, prepared to carry the emotional weight the narcissist refuses to carry, prepared to play the role you once played before you saw the truth. What feels like devotion today will become pressure tomorrow. What feels like closeness will become suffocation. What feels like being chosen will eventually become being used. The tragedy is that they don't see it yet, and the narcissist counts on that. They need someone who believes the act, because the act is all they have to offer, and the new partner remains safe, temporarily, precisely because they are still blind. The moment they begin to see the truth, they will be treated exactly as you were, dismissed, blamed, invalidated, and ultimately replaced, not because of who they are, but because of who the narcissist is incapable of becoming. So when you look at the new relationship, understand this: you are not watching love. You are watching repetition. You are not watching healing. You are watching avoidance. You are not watching an upgrade. You are watching the same cycle, the same wounds, the same manipulation, simply wrapped in fresh packaging. And beneath the shine of that packaging is a reality that will collapse the moment the new partner stops playing the role the narcissist needs them to play. No matter how perfect the narcissist tries to make the new relationship look, there is one thing they cannot outrun: their own shadow. This is the part of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. The shame, the insecurity, the emptiness, the rage, the fear of abandonment, the fear of exposure, the fear of being ordinary. They can hide it from the new partner for a while, and they can hide it from the outside world, but they cannot hide it from themselves. And eventually, the shadow spills through the cracks of the persona they worked so hard to protect. Jung said that the shadow is everything we refuse to see in ourselves. For the narcissist, that everything is enormous. It includes every pattern they deny, every wound they never healed, and every part of their personality that contradicts the image they are desperate to maintain. This is why the new relationship begins to collapse from the inside long before it ever collapses publicly. The narcissist's shadow is always stronger than their performance. They can fake affection, fake empathy, fake devotion, fake connection, but they cannot fake self-awareness. And without self-awareness, The same behaviors you once experienced inevitably return. It starts in subtle ways: the irritation, the mood swings, the silent treatments, the need for control, the petty jealousies, the passive-aggressive comments, the entitlement, the sudden coldness. The new partner doesn't understand what's happening because it contradicts everything the narcissist displayed in the beginning, but you understand exactly what's happening because you've seen the mask slip before. What the new partner thinks is stress or a bad day or miscommunication is actually the shadow resurfacing. The narcissist isn't changing. They are reverting to who they always were once the performance becomes too exhausting to maintain. And this is where the truth becomes unavoidable. The narcissist cannot escape themselves. It doesn't matter how attractive the new partner is, how accommodating they are, how forgiving they are, how quickly they surrender their boundaries. None of it changes the fundamental reality that the narcissist is internally fractured. They cannot tolerate accountability, so they blame. They cannot tolerate emotional intimacy, so they detach. They cannot tolerate vulnerability, so they manipulate. They cannot tolerate being ordinary, so they exaggerate. Everything they refuse to face in themselves becomes something they attack in others, and the new partner eventually becomes the next target. This collapse is not accidental, it is structural. The narcissist's entire identity is built on external validation, not internal stability. So when the high of the new relationship wears off, and it always wears off, the narcissist is left with the same emptiness they tried to escape, the same loneliness, the same fear, the same voice reminding them that nothing has changed. And because they cannot go inward, they must look outward for the next source of power, the next distraction, the next mirror that lets them pretend. The shadow wins every time because it is the only part of them that is real. And this is the part the narcissist will never admit. The new relationship doesn't expose your failure, it exposes their limitation. It reveals that they cannot evolve, cannot reflect, and cannot sustain the version of themselves they pretend to be. The shadow follows them from one relationship to the next, from one partner to another, dragging the same wounds, the same behaviors, the same chaos, and the same inability to love. They can switch partners, cities, jobs, appearances, rituals, narratives, but they cannot switch identities. They carry their shadow everywhere, and sooner or later, the new partner sees the same darkness you once saw. The narcissist believes they are escaping their past when they move on quickly, but what they are really doing is repeating it. The new partner believes they are being chosen, but what they are really being handed is the same impossible task you once tried to complete, protecting someone from the consequences of their own shadow. And that is a task no one can fulfill. One of the most powerful realizations you will ever have in this entire journey is that the narcissist's new relationship has never been a reflection of your inadequacy. It has always been a reflection of your strength. The lie they construct around their new partner is not designed to show how happy they are. It's designed to cover up what losing you revealed about them. And if you look closely, everything they are trying so desperately to prove now is connected to everything they failed to achieve with you. The narcissist didn't replace you because you were weak. They replaced you because you became unmanageable. You stopped feeding their ego the way they wanted. You stopped absorbing the blame. You stopped collapsing under their manipulation. You stopped sacrificing your sanity to protect their instability. And once you stop giving a narcissist the emotional reaction they rely on, they cannot tolerate being around you. That is why they need a new source of supply, someone who will tolerate the chaos you no longer accept. This is the truth they do not want you to realize. The very thing you think made you not enough is exactly what made you unreachable for them. Your boundaries, your resilience, your ability to recognize patterns, your intuition, your capacity to detach when you've had enough, these qualities disqualified you as a long-term supply. A narcissist doesn't want a partner, they want an emotional crutch. They don't want someone self-aware, they want someone who absorbs the consequences of their emotional dysfunction. And the more you grew, the less useful you became to them. When they move on quickly, they're not celebrating freedom, they're avoiding accountability. When they flaunt the new relationship, they're not showcasing happiness, they're defending their ego. When they make the new partner look like an upgrade, they're not proving your inadequacy, they're trying to erase the fact that they couldn't control you anymore. Everything they do is a reaction to the power you reclaimed. And this is what the lie secretly says about you. You were the one person who forced them to confront a part of themselves they spend their entire life running from. Your presence exposed the cracks in their persona. Your boundaries challenged their entitlement. Your emotional depth highlighted their emotional emptiness. Your strength magnified their weakness. They didn't leave because you were lacking. They left because being around you made their shadow impossible to ignore. This is why the discard feels so confusing. Because it doesn't match your worth. It matches their fear. And the fear wasn't losing you. The fear was losing control over you. They will never admit it, but the new relationship is not evidence of you being replaceable. It is evidence of them being incapable. Incapable of growing. Incapable of facing themselves. Incapable of sustaining anything real. They needed someone new because they could no longer manipulate someone strong. And here is the most important truth. The fact that they had to create an entire illusion to convince you that you were the problem is proof that you were never the problem. If their new relationship truly proved anything, they wouldn't need you to see it, react to it, or be hurt by it. Real happiness doesn't seek an audience. Real healing doesn't require comparison. Real love doesn't need to prove itself. The narcissist lie is loud because your truth is quiet and strong. And the part they fear most is that once you fully see the situation for what it is, you won't just walk away from them. You will walk toward a version of yourself they were never able to break. That is the real loss they cannot admit, and it's the loss their new relationship is secretly trying to hide. Every narcissistic relationship eventually reaches the same moment, the point where the performance becomes too heavy to maintain. It doesn't happen suddenly. It doesn't happen dramatically. It happens quietly, in the subtle places where pretense cannot survive. And the new partner, who once felt chosen and adored, begins to feel something they can't explain. Confusion. That confusion is the first crack in the facade. The narcissist cannot sustain the version of themselves they presented in the beginning because that version was never real. It was built from imitation, not identity, from projection, not self-awareness, from need, not love. So the moment the new partner stops providing the constant validation that fuels the narcissist's ego, the collapse begins. Not because the new partner did anything wrong, but because no one can meet the endless demands of someone who is hollow on the inside. The collapse starts with withdrawal. The narcissist becomes distant, less responsive, less attentive. What was once soul connection becomes cold, transactional interaction. They stop pretending to listen. They stop pretending to care. The emotional energy they once poured into the love-bombing phase evaporates overnight, because it was never genuine, it was bait. And once the bait no longer serves its purpose, they move into the next stage of the cycle, entitlement. Everything becomes about what the new partner isn't doing correctly. The tone changes, the expectations rise. The criticism becomes sharper, the disappointment becomes constant. Then comes control, subtle at first, questioning, monitoring, guilt-tripping, then more direct, isolating, invalidating, rewriting events, demanding compliance. The new partner starts to feel smaller, less sure of themselves, less grounded. What once felt like fate begins to feel like walking on eggshells. They try harder, over-explaining, over-correcting, over-giving, the same way you once did, hoping to pull the relationship back to the beginning. But there is no beginning to return to. The beginning was a sales pitch, not a foundation. The narcissist, sensing they are losing power, escalates. Mood swings intensify. Anger surfaces. Passive aggression becomes open hostility. Silent treatment becomes longer. Projections become crueler. And to regain control, they recycle the same tactics they used on you, shifting blame, playing the victim, creating doubt, manufacturing emotional tension. The new partner, once idealized, now becomes the repository for the narcissist shadow, All the shame, insecurity, and fear they refuse to face. This is when the facade fully collapses. The narcissist's behaviors can no longer be hidden behind charm or performance. The new partner begins experiencing the exact same emotional erosion you once endured. They question themselves. They lose their confidence. They feel responsible for the narcissist's moods. They walk around with a constant sense of unease, confusion, and emotional depletion. They are now living the truth that was always there, just temporarily disguised by intensity and illusion. And here is the part most people overlook. The collapse is not a reflection of the new partner's failure. It is a reflection of the narcissist's inevitability. They were always going to return to who they are, because that is the only version of themselves that actually exists. The love-bombing version is borrowed. The controlling version is authentic. The charming version is copied. The draining version is real. And sooner or later, the new partner sees it all. Not because they are weak, but because the narcissist cannot sustain deception indefinitely. When the facade collapses, the narcissist does what they always do. They look for another distraction, another admirer, another stage where they can start the cycle again. They repeat the pattern because repetition is the only form of consistency they know. The collapse reveals one truth. The narcissist didn't build a new relationship. They built another temporary refuge from themselves. And like every refuge built on denial, it crumbles under the weight of the shadow they refuse to face. The moment everything finally shifts is not when the narcissist meets someone new. It's when you stop reacting. That is the point where the entire dynamic collapses, not just for them, but for you in the best possible way. Because your awakening doesn't come from understanding the narcissist, it comes from understanding yourself. When you stop checking their social media, stop comparing yourself to the new partner, stop replaying conversations, stop waiting for closure, something in you begins to return. Something that was always yours but was buried under confusion, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. This is the beginning of reclaiming your identity. Not the identity the narcissist shaped for you, not the identity that existed inside the cycle, but the identity that was quietly waiting underneath the chaos. You start seeing patterns instead of personal attacks. You start recognizing manipulation instead of internalizing blame. You start valuing silence instead of chasing explanations. And in that stillness, the very stillness the narcissist fears, you begin awakening to the truth that the power they held over you was never real. It was borrowed. It depended entirely on your willingness to believe their version of reality. As the fog lifts, you become someone the narcissist cannot reach, not because you are hiding, but because clarity moves you to a place where their tactics no longer land. The guilt no longer sticks. The triangulation no longer confuses. The comparisons no longer hurt. The illusion no longer seduces. You are seeing the entire system from the outside now, and from the outside the pattern becomes painfully obvious and painfully small. The narcissist is not the massive, intimidating force they once felt like. They are predictable, repetitive, limited, and the moment you recognize that, you reclaim something they could never give you: yourself. This is what Jung meant when he spoke about the emergence of the self, the moment a person moves from being defined by external forces into being anchored in their own truth. Your awakening is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not something you announce. It's a shift in your internal gravity. You stop orbiting their world. You stop seeking their validation. You stop interpreting their actions as commentary on your worth. You simply step out of the role you were conditioned to play, and in doing so, you step into a version of yourself the narcissist has no power over. Ironically, this is the moment the narcissist becomes obsessed with you again, though they may never say it out loud. Not because they want you back, but because your indifference represents the one outcome they cannot control. Your awakening is the one thing their facade can't survive. And while they continue repeating the same cycle with someone new, you're doing something they never will. You're evolving, and evolution is the one form of power they can neither imitate nor take away.